Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to learn about animals you can find right in the city.
Yeah. We call those animals urban wildlife.
Urban wildlife.
Exactly. And we'll be talking all about how they survive in such a busy environment, and hopefully you'll learn some new English words along the way.
That's right. We'll make sure to explain any new words, so don't worry if you don't understand everything right away.
So are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's start with a question. Have you ever seen a raccoon trying to get into your trash can?
Oh, yeah, raccoons. They are like little masters of adaptation.
Adaptation.
Yeah. It means they can change their behavior or even their bodies to survive in a new place.
So like how they learned to open trash cans to find food.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. They use their really nimble hands and sharp claws, and they're really good at solving problems, too.
It's amazing how they can figure out those latches.
It really is. And, each kind of animal is called a different species.
Species.
Yeah. So, like, all the raccoons in the world are one species, and all the squirrels are another species.
Oh, I get it. So raccoons are a species that's really good at adapting to city life.
Definitely. Now, what about pigeons? Have you ever seen them hanging out in a park?
Oh yeah, pigeons are everywhere. They seem to love cities.
They do. And they've learned to find food in parks and streets, often relying on things humans leave behind.
Like crumbs and stuff.
Exactly. And in many cultures, pigeons are seen as symbols of peace.
That's interesting. I've seen people feeding pigeons in the park. It's like they're not afraid of us at all.
Yeah, they've definitely gotten used to being around humans. It's another way they've adapted.
Okay, so we've talked about raccoons and pigeons now. What about squirrels?
Squirrels are amazing. They're like little acrobats, the way they climb and jump around.
I know. It's like they're not even scared of heights.
And they use their climbing skills to find food and shelter in the city.
So the parks and trees become their habitat?
Exactly. Habitat means the natural home of an animal.
So a squirrel's habitat in the city might be a park with lots of trees.
That's a great example. And it's pretty amazing how many different kinds of animals you can find in a city.
Yeah, I never really thought about it that way, but there's a lot of diversity.
There is. We call that biodiversity, meaning lots of different species living in one place.
So even though cities are busy and full of buildings, they can still support a variety of wildlife.
That's right. And it's all thanks to these animals' amazing adaptations.
So we've learned about urban wildlife and how animals like raccoons, pigeons, and squirrels have adapted to city life.
And we've even learned some new words like adaptation species and habitat.
This is great. I'm already starting to see the city in a whole new way.
Me too. It's amazing what you can discover when you start paying attention to the nature around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to learn about these incredible creatures.
There is, but we'll have to save that for next time.
I can't wait.
It's really fascinating to think about how these animals have carved out their own little spaces in our cities.
I know, right? Like we were talking about before with raccoons, their paws are so important for that.
Oh yeah, totally. Those paws are like their secret weapon in the city.
And it's not just for opening trash cans either. I mean, they can use those paws for so many things.
Yeah, like climbing, turning doorknobs, even getting into attics sometimes.
It's incredible. And they're such smart animals too.
Bro, absolutely. They're so resourceful. They can figure out how to get into almost anything.
Like I read somewhere that scientists even saw raccoons using rocks to get to food.
Really? Wow. That's amazing.
I know, right? It's like they're constantly adapting and learning new tricks.
They definitely are. And speaking of adapting, pigeons have a totally different approach.
Yeah, they're not exactly known for their clever paws or anything.
Nope. But they're incredibly adaptable in their own way. They've learned to live so closely alongside humans.
Yeah, they seem totally comfortable around us. I mean, they'll walk right up to you sometimes.
Exactly. And that tolerance for humans has actually helped them survive in cities.
How so?
Well, because they're not afraid of us, they can form these big flocks.
Oh yeah, those flocks are everywhere.
Right. And being in a flock helps them find food and stay safe.
So if one pigeon finds some food, the whole flock knows about it.
Exactly. It's a great strategy for surviving in a busy city.
And pigeons don't migrate either, right? So they're here all year round.
That's right. Which means they've really adapted to the rhythms of city life. They know when and where to find food and shelter.
It's pretty impressive when you think about it. They've made the city their own.
They definitely have. And now let's talk about squirrels. They've got a different strategy for city survival.
Oh yeah, squirrels are all about agility and speed.
Exactly. They're like the acrobats of the urban world.
Have you ever seen them jump across a busy street? It's amazing.
I know. They're fearless.
Yeah.
And those jumps are possible because of their strong hind legs and their bushy
So
tails.
the tail helps them balance.
Yeah, it acts like a counterweight, and it helps them steer, too.
That's so cool. And they can climb practically anything, too.
Oh, yeah. Their claws are super sharp, and their bodies are so flexible, they can squeeze into tiny spaces and climb up almost any surface.
It's like they're made for city life.
In a way, they are. They've really adapted to the vertical spaces of the city.
And they're pretty resourceful when it comes to finding food and shelter, too.
Oh, absolutely. They've learned to use what's available to them, whether it's a flower pot for stashing nuts or an attic for building a nest.
So they're comfortable in both the natural and the human-made parts of the city.
Exactly. They're a great example of how urban wildlife can blend into both worlds.
You know, it's amazing to think about how these animals have adapted to live alongside us.
It really is. It shows how resilient nature is and how life can find a way to thrive even in unexpected places.
It's amazing to think about all the different creatures that have made this city their home.
It really is. And it's not just the bigger animals like raccoons and
Oh,
squirrels.
right. There's a whole world of smaller creatures, too.
Exactly. Think about all those cracks in the sidewalk.
Yeah, you don't really notice them until you start looking.
But those cracks are actually super important for lots of insects. Oh, yeah. For example, ant colonies use those cracks to build their nests.
So they're like little underground cities.
Exactly. It's incredible how they've adapted to this human-made environment.
I know. And it's not just insects either. I've seen birds nesting in all sorts of places in the city.
Yeah, birds are another great example of urban adaptation. Some birds have even changed their nesting habits to thrive in cities.
Like what kinds of birds?
Well, have you ever seen birds of prey perched on top of skyscrapers?
Oh, yeah. I've always wondered why they do that.
Well, some birds of prey, like the peregrine falcon, originally nested on cliffs.
Oh, I see.
But they've adapted to using tall buildings as their new nesting sites.
So the skyscrapers are like their modern-day cliffs.
Exactly. And they've also adapted their hunting techniques to the city environment.
Like how?
Well, they've learned to use the updrafts created by those tall buildings to soar and hunt their prey.
Wow. So they've turned the city's wind patterns to their advantage.
They have. And their prey often includes other urban birds like pigeons.
Oh, wow. So they're helping to keep the ecosystem in balance.
That's right. And it's not just falcons, lots of other bird species have adapted to city life too.
Like I've seen sparrows nesting in building crevices and robins looking for worms in parks.
Exactly. Those birds bring so much life and color to our cities.
Yeah, their songs are always so cheerful.
They are. It's a nice reminder that we share this space with so many other creatures.
And speaking of color, we can't forget about butterflies.
Butterflies are essential for a healthy urban ecosystem.
Yeah, they're so beautiful.
And they play an important role in pollination too.
So they help plants reproduce.
That's right. And they've adapted to find food and shelter in urban gardens, rooftop green spaces, and even roadside wildflowers.
It's amazing how they manage to survive in such a busy environment.
It is. They're a reminder that even small creatures can thrive in cities.
So, we've talked about raccoons, pigeons, squirrels, insects, birds, and butterflies.
And that's just a small sample of all the creatures that call the city home.
I know, right? It's incredible to think about how much biodiversity there is in our cities.
It really is. It's a testament to the power of nature to adapt and thrive.
So to wrap things up, it's clear that our cities are more than just concrete jungles. They're vibrant ecosystems teeming with life.
Exactly. And by learning about these animals and their adaptations, we can learn to coexist harmoniously with them.
That's a great point. It's been amazing to explore the world of urban wildlife with you today.
It's been my pleasure. I hope this deep dive has inspired everyone to pay attention to the nature around them.
I think it definitely has. So keep exploring, stay curious, and let's continue to appreciate the incredible creatures sharing our cities. Thanks for joining us.